The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive sphere where hundreds of alien species came to settle their problems. Today, the chamber was filled with tension. High Chancellor Vexthar stood at the center, his forearms waving as he spoke. He was a Krone, and the Krone were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had conquered many worlds and destroyed anyone who stood against them. Ambassador Kate Morrison sat in the human section, watching calmly. She was a woman in her 40s with gray eyes and red hair tied back neatly. Next to her sat Commander Paul Hayes, a military officer with the bearing of someone who had seen real combat. They both knew this meeting would not go well. Vexthar's voice boomed through the translation devices. These humans are new to space travel. They barely discovered faster than light travel a few years ago. Yet they dare to settle in territories that belong to the Krone Dominion. We have warned them 3 times. They refused to obey. Kate remained still, her face showing nothing. She had expected this. The Krone had been trying to bully humanity since first contact. They thought humans were weak because they were new to galactic politics. The humans must leave the outer reaches immediately, Vexthar continued. They must surrender their colony ships. They must accept Krone supervision of their expansion into space. If they refuse, we will consider it an act of war. Several other species in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. A few whispered to each other. One alien, a being made of living crystal named Sileth, spoke up. Perhaps there is a better way to handle this. War is expensive and dangerous for everyone. Vexthar turned his massive head toward the crystal being. The Krone do not fear cost. We have never lost a war. These humans number only 15 billion across a few planets. We command fleets that have destroyed entire civilizations. This will be over quickly. Kate stood up slowly. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. High Chancellor, we have reviewed your demands. We have studied your territorial claims. According to galactic law, the regions you mention are not registered to the Krone. There are no Krone settlements there. These areas are open for colonization. We say what the law is, Vexthar growled. Kate continued as if he had not interrupted. We have 37 colony ships heading to 7 different star systems. Those ships carry families and children, people looking for new homes. We will not recall them. We will not accept supervision. We will defend our right to expand as a free species. The chamber went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Paul stood next to Kate, his hand resting on his weapon. It was a small gesture, but many aliens noticed it. Vexthar made a sound that the translator turned into laughter. Then you have chosen. The Krone Dominion declares war on the human species. We will destroy your colonies. We will blockade your homeworld. We will make your people serve us or die. Kate's face did not change. I want to be clear about what you are doing. You are declaring war on all of humanity. We are declaring your end, Vexthar said. Kate looked around at the other species watching. Let everyone here remember that humanity tried for peace. Let them also remember that when we are forced to fight, we do not hold back. As the human delegation left, Sileth approached Vexthar. I have studied the humans. They are unusual. Their planet has tried to kill them many times with ice ages and disasters. They survived. Their history is full of terrible wars. Perhaps you should reconsider. They have almost no military fleet, Vexthar said with contempt. Their biggest warship could barely scratch our shields. This will teach the galaxy not to challenge the Krone. Sileth said nothing more. But the light inside the crystal being dimmed with worry. On the human transport ship leaving the station, Paul and Kate sat in a secure room. They actually did it, Paul said, shaking his head. I thought they might back down at the last moment. They have never been challenged before, Kate replied. Their whole identity is based on being dominant. They could not back down even if they wanted to. Paul brought up a holographic display showing lists of ships and military units. Earth Command has been preparing for this. Operation Thunderhead is ready. Kate studied the display. How long until the Krone reach our colonies? Our intelligence says about 3 weeks. They will probably hit the frontier settlements first to make an example. Then we move fast. Kate's expression hardened. Send the authorization codes. Activate all reserve fleets. Recall every military ship. And Paul, activate the Luna protocols. Paul hesitated. Kate, are you sure? Once we show them what we have hidden, there is no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are. The Krone think we are prey, Kate said quietly. Time to show them what happens when you hunt a predator. 3 days later, the Kron assembled their war fleet at the edge of their territory. 200 massive battleships, each as large as a small moon, filled with weapons. Supporting them were 500 cruisers and over 1,000 smaller attack ships. Fleet Commander Zareth looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. The human colonies were scattered and poorly defended. Intelligence reports showed only 20 small patrol ships and a few defense platforms in the outer reaches. This would be easy. Begin the jump sequence, he ordered. We will hit the colony on Kepler 442b first. We will broadcast the destruction so all humans can see what happens when you defy the Kron. The massive fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into jump space. They would arrive at Kepler 442b in 6 days. The humans were waiting, but not in the way the Kron expected. Hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon were shipyards that no alien had ever seen. Inside those shipyards, humanity had built its real military fleet. Ships designed not for exploration but for war. Ships that used weapons and tactics the Kron had never encountered. The trap was set. The Kron were coming, and humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for generations. Sometimes the prey you hunt turns out to be the hunter instead. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the Earth fleet ship Valiant, watching her screens carefully. The Valiant was nothing like the small patrol ships the Kron had seen. It was one of Earth's new warships, built in secret on the dark side of the moon where alien spies could not watch. Kron fleet will arrive in 5 minutes. Captain, said Lieutenant Danny Walsh from his sensor station. Numbers match what we expected. 200 big ships, 500 medium ships, about 1,000 small attack craft. Good, Lisa said. She was in her 30s, a veteran who had fought in the Mars conflict years ago. Tell all our ships to confirm they are in position. All ships ready, Captain. Weapons are hot and shields are up. Lisa smiled slightly. The Kron were about to learn something important. Humans had seemed friendly and weak during first contact, because that was the smart thing to do. Let your enemy think you are harmless until you are ready to strike. It was an old human trick. Show me the tactical map, she ordered. The main screen changed to show the Kepler 442b star system. The colony was on the 4th planet, a world similar to Earth. But hidden throughout the system, behind asteroids and moons and in carefully planned positions, was Battle Group Xerxes. 48 heavy cruisers with new weapon systems, 16 carriers full of fighter craft, 8 massive dreadnoughts that were the most powerful ships humanity had ever built. The best part was the stealth technology. Every human ship was running silent, invisible to Kron sensors. To the enemy, the system looked almost undefended. 30 seconds to arrival, Danny called out. All ships hold fire until I give the order, Lisa said. Let them get comfortable first. The Kron fleet appeared at the edge of the system in a flash of exotic energy. Their formation was aggressive and direct. Big ships in a wall formation, medium ships spreading out, small attack craft launching toward the planet. On the Kron flagship, Fleet Commander Zareth studied his sensors with pleasure. Minimal defenses detected, 3 platforms and 2 small ships. This will be easier than we thought. Should we let them surrender? His second-in-command asked. No. The High Chancellor wants a demonstration. Target the colony and the orbital structures. Fire when ready. The Kron battleships began charging their main weapons. That was when everything changed. Now, Lisa said quietly. Throughout the Kepler system, 72 human warships dropped their stealth fields at the same time. The Kron sensors took several seconds to process what had just happened. By then it was too late. All ships execute hammerfall, Lisa commanded. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly. The dreadnoughts appeared directly above and below the Kron wall formation, using the enemy's own ships as cover. The cruisers appeared close on the flanks. The carriers stayed back, launching fighters that immediately began jamming Kron communications. Target their command ship, Lisa ordered. Full weapons, all systems. The Valiant was positioned less than 1,000 kilometers from the Kron flagship, extremely close for space combat. Its main railguns, weapons that shot solid metal at incredible speeds, opened fire. At the same time, hundreds of missiles launched, swerving and dodging the enemy's defensive fire. The Kron shields were strong against energy weapons, but they had a weakness. Nobody in the galaxy used kinetic weapons anymore. They thought such primitive weapons were useless. They were wrong. A fast-moving chunk of metal did not care about energy shields. It went right through them. The railgun rounds punched through the flagship's shields and tore into its hull. Armor that could stop lasers vaporized under the kinetic impact. The missiles followed, exploiting the holes, their warheads designed to cause maximum damage inside the ship. The Kron flagship's shields collapsed completely. Its hull began venting air into space. Multiple hits confirmed, Danny reported. Their flagship is crippled. Reading power failures across their command ship. The same thing was happening all across the system. Human ships, smaller and faster than the Kron vessels, fought at close range where their kinetic weapons worked best. The Kron, used to fighting at long range with energy weapons, found themselves in a brutal close-quarters battle they had not prepared for. Captain Nathan Cole, commanding the dreadnought Relentless, watched as his ship's main gun fired at a Kron battleship. The tungsten round, weighing several tons and moving at 12% of light speed, hit the battleship in the middle and kept going, punching completely through the ship and out the other side. Target destroyed, Nathan reported calmly. Moving to next target, the Kron fleet began to break apart. Their tactics relied on overwhelming firepower at long range. The humans had destroyed that advantage by appearing at point-blank range with weapons the Kron had never expected. But the Kron were not cowards. Fleet Commander Zareth, pulling himself up in the damaged bridge, gave new orders. All ships close the distance. Board their vessels. We are Kron, we do not run. It was a desperate move, but not stupid. If they could board the human ships, the Kron had the advantage in hand-to-hand combat. They were bigger and stronger than humans, but Zareth had not counted on the carrier groups. Sir, massive fighter launch from human carriers, a sensor officer reported. Over 500 small craft. The human fighters were fast and deadly, piloted by humans with quick reflexes enhanced by computer links. Each fighter carried missiles and rapid-fire cannons. They swarmed the Kron ships like wolves attacking prey too large to fight alone. Lieutenant Amy Foster, flying her fighter with her squadron, targeted a Kron cruiser trying to reach a human destroyer. "Missiles away," she called out, releasing her payload. The missiles hit the cruiser's engines and the ship began tumbling. Before it could recover, 3 more fighters added their fire, tearing through the damaged vessel. "Target destroyed," Amy reported. Moving to next one. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Kron fleet was destroyed. Of the 200 capital ships, only 34 survived, most badly damaged. The losses in cruisers and small craft were similar. The survivors fled, jumping to faster than light speed in panic. Human losses were light. 3 cruisers destroyed, 5 more damaged, and 41 fighters lost. On the bridge of the Valiant, Lisa watched the Kron ships disappear. Stand down from battle stations. Damage control teams, get to work. Medical teams to any ship with wounded. "Captain," Danny said quietly, "they are going to tell the whole galaxy what happened here." "I know," Lisa replied. "Send all combat recordings to Earth Command. Make sure our report is clear. We gave them every chance to back down. They chose this war." Back in Kron space, High Chancellor Vexthar listened to the survivor reports with disbelief turning to rage. "Impossible. They are too young. They have no real military. This must be a trick." "The recordings are real, Your Excellency," his intelligence minister said. "The humans have a hidden fleet. Their weapons are primitive but effective. Their tactics are aggressive beyond anything we expected. Then we send more ships," Vexthar snarled. "Every vessel from every sector. We will crush them." "Perhaps we should negotiate," the minister suggested carefully. "Never. The Kron do not negotiate from weakness. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us." The minister left, wondering if the High Chancellor understood what he was starting. The humans had prepared for this war. They had planned for it. The cold efficiency of their attack suggested they were far from finished. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Henry Blake reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. "Phase 1 complete," he told his commanders. "The Kron now know they underestimated us, but they are too proud to negotiate. They will escalate. What are our next moves?" asked Admiral Patricia Ross. Henry pulled up a star map. "The Kron will gather everything they have. When they will come with their full strength. We need to be ready. Activate reserve fleets. Bring all shipyards to maximum production. Begin Operation Homecoming." "That is the recall of all civilian vessels," Patricia said. "Yes, every merchant ship, every transport. If the Kron want total war, we will give it to them on our terms." The trap had worked. The first battle was won. But both sides knew this was only the beginning. The recordings from the battle at Kepler 442b spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Every species on the Galactic Council received the combat footage and sensor data within days. In the Velthori assembly chamber, Ambassador Sileth showed the battle recordings to the gathered crystal leaders. The Velthori were an old species who had chosen trade and diplomacy over war. "Watch their tactics carefully," Sileth explained, their crystalline body pulsing with different colors. The humans did not just defend themselves. They ambushed a fleet 3 times their size using stealth technology we did not know they had. Their weapons are simple kinetic projectiles, but extremely effective against our energy defenses. Elder Christan spoke with concern. "What troubles me is their preparation. They planned for this war. They built secret fleets and developed tactics specifically to fight the Kron. This is not the behavior of a peaceful species." Or, Sileth suggested, "it is the behavior of a species that has learned about war too well. I have studied human history. They have been fighting wars among themselves for thousands of years. Terrible wars. Wars that killed millions. They understand conflict in ways most species do not. Should we support the Kron?" Another elder asked. "They have been our trading partners for centuries." "I recommend staying neutral," Sileth responded. "The Kron chose this war. Let them face the results. Besides, the humans honored their agreements until they were attacked. They may make better partners than the Kron." Similar conversations happened across the galaxy. The Thexian hive mind analyzed the battle data coldly. Their conclusion was simple. Humanity was dangerous but could be useful. They would stay neutral and watch. The Kikstal Empire, a military society that respected strength, viewed the humans with new interest. Perhaps this young species would make good allies. They sent quiet diplomatic messages to Earth, suggesting they might be open to talks. But not everyone stayed neutral. The Draken Confederacy, longtime allies of the Kron, announced their support. The Draken were reptilian beings who ruled 50 star systems with brutal efficiency. Their fleet commander, Supreme General Krathix, addressed the council. "The Kron have asked for our help and we will give it. This human problem must be stopped before it spreads. We are sending 30 battle groups to support the Kron." Ambassador Kate Morrison, watching from the human embassy, turned to Paul. "That is unfortunate. I hope to keep this between us and the Kron." "The Dracon fleet is dangerous," Paul admitted. "But they use the same tactics as the Kron. Our plans already account for them joining the fight. How many ships can they field together?" "Combined with the Kron, maybe 2,000 capital ships, 4,000 cruisers, and support vessels. They cannot deploy them all at once because of logistics, but over time the numbers are overwhelming." Kate walked to the window, looking at the stars. "Then we need to change the game. We cannot win a long war against those numbers." "Admiral Blake has a plan," Paul said. "Operation Prometheus launches in 4 days. On Earth, the transformation to a wartime economy happened incredibly fast. Every major city had recruitment centers full of volunteers. Shipyards worked day and night. Factories changed to produce military equipment. In New York, former teacher Claire Bennett signed her enlistment papers. She was 32, had no military training, but she had grown up on Mars during the rebellion and knew how to handle weapons. More importantly, she believed that if humanity was going to fight for survival, everyone had to help. "You understand this will not be like movies?" The recruitment officer, Sergeant Jake Morrison, asked her. "Space combat is brutal. If your ship is hit, death comes fast." "I understand," Claire replied. "I also understand the Kron declared war on my species. On my home, on my family. Where do I sign?" This scene repeated across Earth and its colonies. The United Earth Federation had 15 billion people. And while not everyone could fight, the mobilization was massive. Within a month, the armed forces grew from 5 million to over 20 million, with more training every day. The Kron, watching through their spies, were disturbed. Most species could not mobilize this quickly or completely. The humans seemed to have a collective will that activated instantly. In the Kron war chambers, High Chancellor Vexthar met with his commanders and Dracon Supreme General Krathix through hologram. "The humans are mobilizing their entire population," Vexthar said. "Intelligence suggests they are preparing for a long war." "Then we strike hard and fast," Krathix responded. "The Dracon's 2nd and 5th fleets are moving to join your forces. Together we will have over 1,500 capital ships for the assault." "What about their homeworld?" asked Fleet Commander Zareth. We will blockade Earth after we destroy their colonial fleets, Vexthar decided. Cut off their resources, destroy their shipyards, force them to surrender. No species can fight without resources. It was a good strategy. The Kron had used it successfully before, but they did not know that Earth was only part of humanity's industrial capacity. Lieutenant Kyle Sanders floated in his fighter at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. His squadron had been on patrol for 6 hours, watching for enemy scouts. Control, Nighthawk leader, Kyle reported. Sector is clear. No contacts? Acknowledged. Maintain patrol. Operation Prometheus begins in 72 hours. We need this system secure. Kyle acknowledged and signaled his squadron to continue. Alpha Centauri was one of humanity's oldest colony systems, with major shipyards and factories. It was also heavily defended. Led, this is 3, came his wingman's voice, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. You think Prometheus will work? It has to, Kyle replied. We cannot fight defensively against their numbers. We need to attack them. Heard it involves some new weapon, Sarah said. Whatever it is, Command believes it will change everything. That is good enough for me. What Kyle did not know was that Operation Prometheus was not a single weapon. It was a complete strategic shift. Humanity was about to introduce total war to the galaxy. On Europa, deep under the ice, engineers worked on the new ships of Strike Fleet Apollo. These vessels were smaller than dreadnoughts, faster than cruisers, and designed for one purpose: deep strike operations behind enemy lines. Each ship could make rapid jumps, entering and leaving faster than light travel with minimal delay. They carried weapons designed to destroy infrastructure like shipyards, space stations, and supply depots. Commander Rachel Berg studied the mission briefings for her ship, the Phantom. Her crew of 90 was hand-picked from special forces. They were not regular soldiers. They were raiders and saboteurs. Our target is the Kron shipyard at Dravis Prime, Rachel explained to her officers. Intelligence says it produces 30 capital ships per cycle. We go in, destroy the shipyards, and get out before their fleet responds. That is deep in enemy territory, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Greg Hamilton, said. We will be hundreds of light years from help. That is why they are sending us, Rachel replied with a thin smile. We are not looking for a fair fight. We want to hurt them where they feel safe. The Kron want to bring overwhelming numbers. We will make sure those numbers never reach the battlefield. Operation Prometheus consisted of 20 separate strike fleets, each with specific targets throughout Kron and Dracon space. The operation would begin simultaneously across multiple sectors, forcing the enemy to defend everything. It was aggressive, risky, and exactly what humanity did best: calculated audacity. In the Galactic Council chambers, neutral species watched with growing concern. Ambassador Silith compiled a report for the Council. The humans are not fighting a normal war. They are fighting what they call total war, where every part of their society focuses on victory. This is unusual. Most galactic conflicts are limited to specific goals. Furthermore, human psychology makes them suited for sustained conflict. They evolved as persistence hunters. They do not give up. They adapt. They learn from every fight. The Kron believe they can overwhelm the humans with numbers. This may be wrong. Human history shows they have won wars while badly outnumbered by using unusual tactics and accepting losses that would break most species. Recommendation: the Council should prepare for a long conflict that may change galactic power structures. The humans will not surrender easily, and the Kron cannot afford to lose. This war will continue until one side collapses. The report went to all Council members. Most read it with interest. Some dismissed it as overestimating a young species, but a few who had studied Earth's history read it with worry. They had seen what humans did to each other in war. They did not want to see what humans would do to aliens. The countdown to Operation Prometheus continued. The galaxy watched and waited to see what humanity would do next. Operation Prometheus launched exactly on schedule. 20 human strike fleets, each with 8 to 12 fast attack ships, jumped into Kron and Dracon territory at the same time, across 300 light-years. Commander Rachel Berg felt the familiar stomach lurch as the Phantom dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Dravis Prime system. Around her, 9 other ships appeared in perfect formation. Sensors report, Rachel ordered. Multiple contacts at the shipyard, Lieutenant Greg Hamilton replied. Count shows 23 capital ships under construction. Orbital facilities match our intelligence. Defense platforms are active but not on alert. They do not know we are here yet, Rachel observed. Let us keep it that way as long as possible. All ships maintain stealth. Navigation plot attack vectors. Weapons. Prepare missiles. The Phantom and her sister ships began their approach, engines at minimum power to reduce detection. They had perhaps 10 minutes before the Kron spotted them. It would have to be enough. Weapons ready, reported Lieutenant Amy Chen. Missiles armed and targeted. Rachel watched the tactical display as her ships closed to strike range. The Kron shipyard was massive, a series of connected platforms and construction frames orbiting the planet. Hundreds of workers labored on the unfinished warships. All ships execute on my mark, Rachel said quietly. 3, 2, 1 mark. 10 ships dropped stealth and launched their payloads. Hundreds of missiles streaked forward, each guided by smart targeting systems and equipped with nuclear charges designed to maximize structural damage. The first wave struck before the Kron could react. Shipyard sections exploded. Construction frames twisted and broke. 2 unfinished battleships, their hulls not sealed, suffered complete failures and came apart. Defense platforms activating, Greg reported. Reading launches from the surface. Enemy response fleet scrambling. Second wave launch, Rachel ordered. Navigation, prepare jump coordinates. We are not staying. The second wave targeted the defense platforms, overwhelming their systems. More explosions bloomed across the orbital complex. Jump in 30 seconds, the navigator announced. The Kron response was fast, but too late. By the time their fighters reached the strike zone, the human ships were already preparing to jump. The Phantom and her group vanished into jump space, leaving behind a destroyed shipyard and billions of credits in wrecked infrastructure. Similar scenes happened across Kron and Dracon space. Strike groups hit supply depots, fuel refineries, communication relays, and factories. The attacks were timed to create maximum disruption while keeping human losses low. Of the 20 strike groups, 18 completed their missions successfully. 1 was intercepted and destroyed by a Dracon patrol. Another had drive problems and lost 3 ships fighting its way out, but escaped with valuable intelligence. The impact was immediate and devastating. The Kron and Dracon war machine, preparing for a massive assault, suddenly found itself short of fuel, ammunition, and parts. Construction schedules for new warships were set back months or years. In the Kron capital, High Chancellor Vexthar raged at his commanders. How did they get so deep into our territory? Where were our patrols? Our warning systems? Fleet Commander Zareth, still bearing scars from the first battle, responded carefully. The humans have stealth technology better than our sensors. They also executed multiple coordinated strikes across vast distances. This requires planning and logistics we did not expect. Find their base, Vexithar demanded. Find where they launch these raids and destroy it. Your Excellency, the intelligence minister said, we believe the humans use mobile fleet bases. They do not maintain fixed positions we can target. They strike and retreat to unpredictable locations. Vexthar slammed his fist on the table. Then we proceed with the colony assault. Assemble the combined fleet. We will crush their military in open battle. The shipyard losses have delayed us, Zareth warned. We need at least 2 more months to repair the damage. 2 months, Vexthar growled. Fine, but when we move, we bring everything. I want every available warship. We will break them completely. The delay gave humanity precious time. Admiral Henry Blake used those 2 months to speed up production and training. New crews completed fast training programs. Shipyards worked at maximum capacity. Intelligence analyzed every bit of data from the raids. But Blake knew the respite was temporary. The enemy would come with everything. The next battle would decide everything. We need to choose our battlefield carefully, he told his staff. When the combined fleet moves, we engage them where we want, not where they want. What about Tau Ceti? Suggested Admiral Patricia Ross. Lightly populated but strategically positioned. If we fortify the system and draw them there, we can use the terrain to our advantage. The colonists would need evacuation, General Karen Wells pointed out. Better evacuated than dead, Blake replied. We use Tau Ceti as our killing ground. Start moving assets there now. Karen, I want every mine, every defense satellite, every weapon platform we can build in that system. When the enemy arrives, it needs to be the most defended space they have ever seen. In the Dracon capital, Supreme General Krathix met with his war council. Unlike the Kron, who were learning respect for humans, the Dracon remained confident. The Kron are weak, Krathik said dismissively. They let humans strike their territory freely. The Draken will show proper warfare. The humans have proven capable, one subordinate said carefully. Krathix hissed with contempt. They are lucky raiders. In open battle, our numbers and warrior culture will win. The Drakon have never lost a conquest war. It was true the Drakon had an impressive record. They had conquered 15 species over 2,000 years, but none of those species had been humanity. When do we join the Kron assault? Another officer asked. In 6 weeks, Krathix replied. Our fleets will meet at the staging point, then proceed to human colonies. The combined force will number over 1,800 capital ships. No defense can withstand such power. What neither the Kron nor Draken understood was that humanity had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Every simulation, every war game, every planning session had dealt with facing overwhelming numbers. The answer was simple. Do not fight fair. Captain Nathan Cole, commanding the dreadnought Relentless, reviewed the Tau Ceti defensive layout with his staff. His ship was one of 15 dreadnoughts anchoring the defense. They will come with everything, he told his officers. Our job is holding the center while cruiser groups flank. The minefields will channel them into kill zones. The orbital platforms provide supporting fire. What about enemy fighters? Asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Brad Cooper. Our carriers handle fighter suppression. Also, we seeded the asteroid belt with automated drones. When battle starts, those drones activate and engage. The enemy will not know they exist until they start shooting. Sir, his communications officer spoke up. Can we really win? The numbers are against us. Nathan looked at the young officer. Numbers have been against humanity before. We do not win by being stronger. We win by being smarter, more adaptable, and more willing to do whatever it takes. The Kron and Draken think war is about honor and direct combat. We know it is about survival. And humans are very good at surviving. As preparations continued, neutral species watched with interest. Some placed bets. The odds favored the Kron-Draken alliance heavily, but Ambassador Silith refused to bet. The crystal being had studied humanity too much to be confident in predictions. What concerns you? Asked a fellow Velthori. Their history, Silith replied. When pushed to extinction, humans do not surrender. They fight harder. They innovate. They win in ways enemies never expect. The Kron and Draken see a young species with limited resources. I see a species that survived ice ages, volcanic disasters, plagues, and countless wars. They are survivors, and cornered survivors are the most dangerous beings in existence. 3 weeks before the assault, something unexpected happened. The Kixtal Empire announced an alliance with humanity. The Kixtal recognize strength, their ambassador declared. Humans have shown strategic brilliance and tactical superiority. We offer support in exchange for technology sharing and mutual defense. The Kixtal fleet was smaller than Kron or Draken forces, but modern and well-trained. More importantly, the announcement shook the enemy alliance. If other species sided with humans, the power balance could shift dramatically. High Chancellor Vexthar, learning of this development, made a rushed decision. We move up the timetable. Launch the assault in 1 week, before more species support the humans. It was a mistake born of pride and impatience. The Kron-Draken fleet was not fully ready. Supply lines were incomplete. Some units were still traveling to the staging area, but Vexthar would not wait. He could not appear weak when the galaxy watched. Admiral Henry Blake, receiving intelligence of the accelerated schedule, smiled grimly. They are rushing, good. Let them come unprepared. We are not fully ready either, Admiral Patricia Ross pointed out. No, but we are ready enough. And we fight on ground we chose. That makes all the difference. Blake opened a channel reaching every human military unit across multiple systems. All forces, this is Admiral Blake. The enemy is coming. They outnumber us. They outgun us. But they do not understand us. They think this is conquest. The combined Kron-Draken fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Tau Ceti in a display of overwhelming power. 1,800 capital ships, each massive and bristling with weapons, arranged in formation stretching millions of kilometers. Supporting them were 4,000 cruisers and countless smaller vessels. High Chancellor Vexthar stood on the bridge of his new flagship, Dominion's Fist, surveying the display with satisfaction. Scan the system. Find the human fleet. Multiple contacts detected, the sensor officer reported. Human fleet positioned defensively around the fourth planet. Count shows approximately 100 capital ships, 300 cruisers, supporting craft. Vexthar's mandibles clicked with pleasure. 18-to-1 odds in capital ships. They are fools to meet us openly. Fleet Admiral Krathix, are your forces ready? The Drakon commander's holographic image appeared. The Drakon 3rd, 5th, and 7th fleets are positioned. We will execute the hammer strike as planned. Excellent. All ships advance. Destroy the human fleet. The massive armada moved into the system, but as they advanced, surprises began revealing themselves. Sir, explosions in our forward formations, the sensor officer reported. Ships reporting mine strikes. Minefields? Vexthar was shocked. In open space? The humans deployed them throughout the system. Stealth mines activating when ships come close. The mines were not enough to stop the fleet, but they slowed the advance and forced maneuvering, breaking up organized formations. It was minor, but showed the humans had prepared thoroughly. On the relentless bridge, Captain Nathan Cole watched the enemy advance. They hit the first minefield. Good. Navigation, confirm all units positioned. Confirmed, sir. All battle groups ready. Then give them something else to worry about. Launch long-range missile strike. Full payload. Throughout the human fleet, missile tubes opened and released their loads. Thousands of missiles, following unpredictable paths to avoid defenses, streaked toward the enemy. The Kron and Drakon ships opened defensive fire, destroying many missiles. But humanity had learned. These missiles were smarter, tougher, and more numerous than before. Hundreds penetrated defensive fire and struck home. Shields flared and failed. Hulls breached. The first enemy ships took casualties before reaching weapons range. They learned, Fleet Commander Zareth observed. The missiles are improved. It does not matter, Vexthar replied. Continue advancing. All ships prepare main batteries. But the human fleet was not waiting passively. As the enemy closed to medium range, human ships suddenly split into groups and began complex maneuvers the larger Kron ships could not match. Admiral Patricia Ross, commanding from the battleship Constitution, watched the tactical display coldly. Battle Group Alpha, execute flanking maneuver 7. Battle Group Gamma, hold center and draw their attention. Carrier groups launch all fighters. The human battle plan used mobility and deception. While the center group held position, trading fire with the enemy, flanking groups used asteroid fields and planets as cover to reposition. Supreme General Krathix, watching human maneuvers, growled in frustration. They fight like prey, running and hiding, pathetic. All Drakon ships pursue the flanking groups. We will crush them against our main fleet. It was exactly what humans wanted. As Drakon ships broke formation to pursue, they triggered the second defense layer. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt were thousands of automated weapons platforms, each with kinetic weapons and enough power for multiple shots. Lieutenant Kyle Sanders, flying his fighter with Nighthawk Squadron, watched Drakon ships suddenly caught in crossfire. Control, Nighthawk leader. Automated platforms engaging. Drakon fleet taking heavy fire. Acknowledged, Nighthawk leader. Press attack. Target their carriers. Kyle's squadron with hundreds of other fighters dove into chaos. Their mission was destroying or crippling enemy carriers before they could launch fighters. In the three-dimensional battlefield, the fight became a swirling melee. Missiles away, Kyle called, launching at a Drakon carrier. The missiles struck landing bays, triggering secondary explosions as stored fuel detonated. But the enemy was not defeated. The Kron and Drakon had numbers and used them ruthlessly. Human ships began taking casualties. The cruiser Steadfast took a direct hit from a Kron battleship and vaporized instantly. On the Constitution, Admiral Ross watched casualty reports grimly. We are trading at acceptable ratios but cannot sustain indefinitely. Activate Plan Ragnarok. Plan Ragnarok was humanity's final gambit. Hidden throughout Tau Ceti were 3 specialized weapons platforms, each powered by fusion reactors and armed with relativistic kinetic weapons. Massive railguns that accelerated projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The 3 platforms, positioned at different system points, had been aimed at calculated intercepts. When they fired, the tungsten slugs moved at 20% of light speed. At that velocity, shields meant nothing. Matter could not react fast enough to stop the projectiles. The first slug struck a Kron battleship center mass and passed completely through, punching a 10-meter hole through the entire vessel. The ship broke apart from structural damage. The second and third slugs found similar targets. What was that? Vexthar demanded as sensors registered impacts. Where did those fire from? Unknown, Your Excellency. Projectiles moved too fast to track. 3 battleships destroyed. The platforms could only fire a few shots before overheating, but those shots had their effect. They reminded the enemy humanity still had surprises. Supreme General Krathix, watching ships destroyed instantly, made a decision. All Dracon forces concentrate fire on human center formation. We will break through and destroy their flagship. It was sound tactically, but meant abandoning pursuit of flanking groups. Those groups, now free to maneuver, circled behind the enemy fleet and began targeting vulnerable engine sections. Commander Rachel Berg, her strike ship Phantom operating independently in the chaos, led fast attack ships in raids on enemy supply vessels. Target their tankers and ammunition ships. If we trigger secondary explosions, we might cause chain reactions. Her group, operating with near-suicidal aggression, destroyed 3 supply vessels before enemy fighters forced withdrawal. But damage was done. The ammunition ship explosion was spectacular, destroying 2 nearby cruisers and damaging several others. The battle raged 8 hours. Space around Tau Ceti's 4th planet became a graveyard of shattered ships, debris fields, and expanding gas clouds from breached reactors. Both sides took horrific casualties. The human fleet lost 47 capital ships, 120 cruisers, over 600 fighters. Thousands dead or missing, but the Kron Draken fleet lost over 400 capital ships, 800 cruisers, countless smaller vessels. Humans traded at nearly 10-to-1 in capital ships. While unsustainable long-term, the enemy could not sustain losses either. As the battle entered its 9th hour, something unexpected occurred. The Kron and Draken fleet began withdrawing. They are retreating, Lieutenant Greg Hamilton reported from Relentless. Enemy fleet breaking off and retreating to system edge. Captain Nathan Cole did not smile. Do not pursue. Let them go. Damage control teams to all ships. Medical teams to casualties. Someone get me full casualty reports. Admiral Ross issued similar orders fleet-wide. Humans had won, but it was bloody. On Dominion's fist, High Chancellor Vexthar stared at casualty reports in disbelief. Over 400 ships, how? How did they destroy so many? Fleet Commander Zareth, having experienced this before, responded quietly. Because they are better at this than we are. They fight like they have nothing to lose. They use their environment. They prepare their battlefield. They accept casualties that would break most species and keep fighting. Most importantly, they learn from every engagement. We still have over 1,400 capital ships, Vexthar said, but doubt crept into his voice. And they still have over 50, Zareth replied. And they will build more while we repair. Your Excellency, I recommend negotiations. Never, Vexthar roared. The Kron do not surrender. I am not suggesting surrender, Zareth said carefully. I suggest acknowledging this war is not going as expected. We have underestimated humans at every turn. Perhaps time to reassess. Vexthar said nothing, but his posture changed. Supreme General Krathix, aboard his flagship, had similar thoughts. The Draken prided themselves on warrior culture, but understood when enemies earned respect. Humans had done that. Send communication to the human fleet, Krathix ordered. Under truce flag. I wish to speak with their commander. The message reached Admiral Ross 20 minutes later. She considered carefully before responding. I will speak. Neutral location. With escorts. The meeting occurred on the Velthori diplomatic station. Admiral Patricia Ross arrived with security. Supreme General Krathix came with honor guards. The commanders faced each other in the conference room. Ross was in her 50s, gray hair and hard eyes from too much combat. Krathix was massive reptilian, scarred from dozens of battles. Black scales marked with military honors. You wish to speak, Ross said simply. I wish to understand, Krathix replied through translator. My species has conquered for 2,000 years. We never faced an enemy like humanity. You fight with ferocity matching ours, but with unpredictable strategies. How? Ross considered. Because we have... 3 years after the treaty with the Kron, humanity had transformed from a struggling newcomer into a respected power in the galaxy. The colonies in the outer reaches flourished. Trade routes connected Earth with dozens of alien civilizations. Human technology, particularly in stealth systems and kinetic weapons, became valuable commodities. But not everyone was happy with humanity's rise. In the shadowy regions beyond the Galactic Council's authority, the Syndicate watched with growing concern. The syndicate was not a government or a species. It was a network of criminal organizations, smugglers, pirates, and corrupt officials who profited from chaos and instability. For thousands of years they had operated in the gaps between civilizations, taking what they wanted and disappearing into the void. Humanity's aggressive expansion and alliance building threatened their operations. Human patrol ships were efficient and relentless. Human intelligence networks were surprisingly sophisticated. Several major syndicate operations had been disrupted by human interference. In a hidden station deep in an uncharted nebula, the syndicate leadership gathered. They were a diverse group representing dozens of species, united only by greed and survival instinct. "The humans are becoming a problem," said Vexlin, a former Kron military officer who had turned to piracy after the war. "They patrol aggressively. They share intelligence with other species. They are making our traditional routes too dangerous. Worse, they are incorruptible," added Silvak, a Velthori who had been exiled from their homeworld for criminal activities. "We cannot bribe them. We cannot threaten them. They actually enforce their laws." "Then we teach them a lesson," said Krazith, a Draken mercenary commander. "We hit them where they are vulnerable. Show them the cost of interfering with us." The plan they developed was brutal and simple. The syndicate would raid the human colony on New Terra, a peaceful farming world with minimal military presence. They would take hostages, steal valuable cargo, and disappear before human military forces could respond. It would demonstrate that humanity was not invincible and discourage further interference. What the syndicate did not understand was that they were about to make the same mistake the Kron had made. They were about to threaten human civilians. New Terra was a beautiful world, similar to Earth but with larger oceans and gentler seasons. The colony had been established 4 years ago, and now had a population of 50,000, mostly farmers and researchers. The colony's governor, Linda Hayes, was a former diplomat who believed in peaceful coexistence with alien neighbors. The syndicate fleet, consisting of 30 armed freighters and converted warships, jumped into the New Terra system without warning. They moved quickly, overwhelming the 3 patrol ships stationed there. Within hours, they had landed troops on the planet and seized control of the main settlement. Governor Hayes was brought before Krazith, the mercenary commander leading the raid. "You will order your people to cooperate," Krazith told her. "We are taking food supplies, medical equipment, and refined metals. Anyone who resists will be executed." Linda looked at the Dracon mercenary with cold eyes. "You have made a terrible mistake. These people are under Earth's protection. When our military arrives, you will regret this." Krazith laughed. "Your nearest military base is 6 days away. We will be gone in 2 days. Your threats are empty." But Linda knew something Krazith did not. Earth had changed its military doctrine after the war. Every colony now had access to emergency, faster-than-light communication beacons that could reach military headquarters instantly. The beacon had been activated the moment the syndicate fleet appeared. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Henry Blake received the alert within minutes. He read the situation report with growing anger. Pirates raiding New Terra, hostages taken, estimated 30 ships. Admiral Patricia Ross, now Deputy Commander of Earth Defense Forces, stood beside him. "What are our nearest assets?" "Strike Group Razor is 3 days away," Blake said. "But I'm not waiting 3 days." He pulled up a communications channel. "Get me Commander Rachel Berg." Rachel Berg had become something of a legend in the 3 years since the war. Her strike fleet had conducted over 40 raids on enemy positions during the conflict. After the war, she had been promoted to commander of the Special Operations Fleet, a unit that did not officially exist but everyone knew about. "Admiral," Rachel said when her image appeared on the screen. "I saw the alert. What are your orders? How fast can you get to New Terra?" Blake asked. "We are currently 4 days out, but if we push the drives hard, we can make it in 30 hours. My ships are designed for speed." "Do it," Blake ordered. "Rules of engagement are simple. Rescue the hostages. Destroy any syndicate ships that do not immediately surrender. I want these pirates to understand that attacking human civilians carries consequences." "Understood, sir," Rachel replied with a thin smile. "We will make sure they understand." Rachel's fleet, consisting of 12 fast attack ships, immediately changed course and pushed their experimental drives to maximum. The ships were new designs incorporating both human and Kixtal technology, capable of sustained high-speed faster-than-light travel that would burn out normal engines. On New Terra, the Syndicate began loading their stolen cargo. Krazith had ordered his troops to round up colonists and hold them in the main hall as insurance against resistance. The pirates were efficient, taking everything of value they could carry. But they were not as professional as they thought. Several colonists managed to hide. Among them was former Marine Sergeant Chris Bennett, who had retired to New Terra after the war. Chris had no weapons, but he had training and determination. He began organizing the hidden colonists into small groups. "We cannot fight them directly," Chris told the 20 colonists gathered in a hidden storage facility. "But we can make things difficult, slow them down, sabotage their operations, buy time for the military to arrive." "What if the military does not come in time?" asked one farmer. "They will come," Chris said with certainty. "I served under Admiral Blake. He does not abandon his people. Ever. We just need to survive until they get here." The colonists began a quiet resistance campaign. They damaged loading equipment. They contaminated fuel supplies with sugar. They cut communication cables. Nothing major, but enough to slow the Syndicate's operations and frustrate the pirates. Krazith grew increasingly angry as delays mounted. "Find whoever is causing these problems," he ordered his troops. "Make examples of them." But the colonists were clever, using their knowledge of the settlement to stay hidden. The pirates, unfamiliar with the colony layout, struggled to catch them. Meanwhile, Rachel Berg's fleet pushed through faster than light space at speeds that made her crew nervous. The drives were rated for this kind of performance, but only in short bursts. They had been running hot for over 24 hours. "How are the engines holding up?" Rachel asked her chief engineer, Lieutenant Tony Martinez. "They are at 98% capacity, Commander. We can maintain this for maybe 6 more hours before we risk burnout." 6 hours puts us at New Terra with time to spare, Rachel calculated. "Keep pushing." 30 hours after leaving their patrol route, Rachel's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Terra system. They immediately went to stealth mode, becoming invisible to conventional sensors. "Tactical, give me the situation," Rachel ordered. 30 Syndicate ships in orbit around New Terra, reported Lieutenant Greg Hamilton, who had transferred to Rachel's command after the war. "They are still loading cargo. Reading multiple life signs in the main settlement. Hostages confirmed. They are still here," Rachel said with satisfaction. They thought they had more time. "Navigation, plot intercept courses. Weapons, prepare boarding packages. We are going in hard and fast." The Special Operations Fleet split into 3 groups and approached from different vectors. Their stealth technology, improved since the war, kept them hidden until they were within strike range. On the surface, Krazith was arguing with his logistics officer about the delays when alarms suddenly blared. "What now?" he demanded. "Sensors detecting human military ships," the officer reported with panic in his voice. "Multiple contacts. They just appeared inside weapons range." "Impossible," Krazith said. "The nearest human base is 6 days away." "They are here anyway," the officer said. "And they are launching boarding craft." Rachel's fleet executed their assault with precision born from years of practice. Boarding craft launched from concealed bays, each carrying special forces teams trained for hostage rescue. At the same time, the attack ships opened fire on the Syndicate vessels, targeting engines and weapon systems to disable rather than destroy. The Syndicate ships, designed for piracy rather than military combat, were completely unprepared. Within minutes, half their fleet was crippled. The remaining ships attempted to flee, but Rachel's ships were faster. "All Syndicate vessels, this is Commander Rachel Berg of Earth Defense Forces." Rachel broadcast on all frequencies. "You are ordered to stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that attempts to flee will be destroyed. Any harm to the hostages will result in no survivors among your forces. You have 30 seconds to comply." On the surface, Krazith realized the situation was hopeless. The human military had responded,